The next question we need to address is, why do we have Shisha Sidrei Mishnah? Why could there not just be one big global group of Mishnayos? Why do we need 6 different Sidorim? And what's the background to that? Well, that is actually mentioned in the Gemara in Shabbos, in Lamed Aleph Omod Aleph. It brings the posuk from Yeshaya, chapter Lamed Gimel posuk Vov, which says, "V'hoya emuna sitecha chus nishuas chacham asur das." That posuk tells us that there are 6 different items in that posuk, and it finishes off with Yiras Hashem hi otzaro. Provided you've got Yiras Shomayim, the 6 Sidorim can be will become very effective, and each one of those words represents one of the 6 Sidorim of Mishnayos, and we'll look again at that shortly when we get to the first of the 6 Chalokim, which we are going to commence, which is Zroim. However, that's not the only posuk. There are other sources. In the Medrash Tehillim, chapter Yud Tes posuk Yud Daled, it quotes the famous posuk in Lam Natzech, which says, Toiras Hashem Timimo, and then we have Eidus Hashem Ne'emono, Pikudei Hashem Yesharim, Mitzvos Hashem Boro, Yiras Hashem Tohira, and Mishpatei Hashem Emes. And those are 6 different expressions. Each one represents one Seder of Mishnayos. The Balaturim suggests there's another posuk in Devorim chapter Chavov posuk Yud Zayin, Es Hashem hem arzo hayom lios lechol elokim v'loleches b'drachov v'lishmar chukav u'mitzvosov u'mishpatov v'lishma b'kolo. Those 6 expressions are representative of the 6 different Sidrei Mishnah. So we've seen 3 different places, 3 different Mekairos for having 6 different Sidorim. The Balaturim actually is the one who brought the last posuk which I mentioned, and it suggested Kenegdom against the 6 sets of Mishnayos which we have to learn. The posuk gives us a brocha: Lios lo le'am segula le'sitcha elyon le'shilo le'shem le'seferes ve'lioscha am kodesh. We get 6 rewards for learning the 6 different sets of Sidorim of Mishnayos. There's another version as well, another suggestion of the Orach Chaim HaKodesh in Devorim Yud Gimel Posuk Hey, Achar Hashem Elokeichem Teilechu v'oso tiro v'smitzvosav tishmoru v'kol tishmo v'oso ta'avodu v'osid bokun. That's again another 6 expressions relating to the 6 Sidrei Mishnah. The final allusion to the 6 Sidrei Mishnah is in the B'midbar Rabbah in Parshas Nosa, talking about the Sheish Eglos Tzov, the covered wagons. The Sheish Eglos Tzov represent the combination of each of the 2 of the 12 tribes. There were 6 times 2. They brought these covered wagons, and the Medrash there suggests that the reason why it was divided in this way is because there were to be 6 Sidrei Mishnah. The Mishnah says that the Vayaviu es Korbonom, so the Medrash Rabbah says Vayaviu es Korbonom lifnei Hashem Sheish Eglos Tzav, Sheish Keneged Sheishas Mebreshis, Sheish Keneged Shishas Sidrei Mishnah, Sheish Keneged this and Sheish Keneged that, all sorts of different 6s. But one of the most important of these 6 Sidorim is the Shishas Sidrei Mishnah. There is a most remarkable and interesting Perush in the Likutim to the Medrash, which is quoted from the Talmud Tzvi, and I'd like us to read this out because it's actually quite fascinating. He suggests, what's the special connection between the Shisha Sidrei Mishnah and the Eglos Tzav? And he suggests that very often in the Mishnah we have an expression which goes Chisuri Mechsra v'hochi katani. Chisuri Mechsra v'hochi katani means that the Mishnah is not complete. There's certain things have been shortened, a shortened version, and we have to fill it out, because Rebbe tried to be mekatzer. It's well known the Mishnah has to be concise because there's a lot to learn, and we've got to try and get the main points in. Now, if you take the Roshei Tevus of Chesurim Echsav Hachikatoni, that gives you the word chamuk. Now, chamuk is a posuk which is mentioned in Shashim Chamuk Yirechayich, and that means that it's covered and hidden. And a suggestion is that the Eglos Tzav means something covered over, and therefore the connection between the Shisha Sidra Mishnah and the Eglos Tzav is that just as they were hidden and there was depth behind it, so too the Mishnah is full of hidden depth. Therefore, it's a very opposite sort of limud to connect the Shisha Sidra Mishnah with the Eglos Tzav, that's the covered wagons in the Midbar. Now, those are all suggestions as to why the Mishnah was divided up into 6 different parts. And we end up with Shisha Sidorim, which everybody knows is abbreviated to Shas. And at this stage, I'd just like to quote in the name of the late Rab Moshe Steinberg, Zichron Livrocha, who was the headmaster of the Menorah Grammar School for a number of years, who quoted, possibly in the name of his late father-in-law, Zichron Livrocha. He used to quote things from him, and he suggested that the reason why the word Shas became prevalent for Shisha Sidra Mishnah, rather than calling it Talmud or Gemara, we say we learn Shas. Shas means the Shisha Sidorim, but he says Shas is Gematria 360. Everyone knows that there are 360 degrees in a circle, and therefore it's teaching us the Mishnah is not something which you just learn and put aside. You read it like a storybook. Mishnah has to be gone over and over and over again, and therefore there are people who are learning it on a daily basis, a Mishnah a day, some people learn a Perek a day, and people learn the Mishnah over and over again in order to do Chazorah, just like a circle never ceases, it goes round and round, like there are 360 degrees in the circle. I've just mentioned that the word chosen for the Shisha Sidorim is Mishnah, Mishnayos, and people don't know whether to pronounce it Mishneh or Mishnah, which is correct, which is the correct pronunciation. And the answer is they're both correct. It depends on what Mishnah comes from, what's the root. Now, let's just discuss that for a second. There are 3 main translations of the word Mishnah. It can come from the root Shona. Shona means to learn over and over again. Like we just said, 360 degrees, you don't stop, you learn it again and again. Lilmod v'lachzor v'lilmod. And that comes from a posuk in Mishli, chapter Chovov, posuk Aleph, Ksil shoina bi'ivalto. An idiot goes over and over and over again into his stupidity, into his folly. Obviously, we are not going to do that, make that silly mistake. We're not going to be ksilim, we're going to be Talmidei Chachomim, and we're going to learn again and again over the Mishnah, and therefore the word is shono. That would make it with a kobetz, Mishnah. Similarly, some people say it's connected with the shinantom levonecho, the root leshanein shinun, to learn again and again, sharply, to learn it in depth, and to learn it in a very, very sharp manner, and that would also then give it the name Mishnah. However, there's a third explanation, and that is that it's called Mishnah Torah. We find the posuk Mishnah Torah, which means the second Torah, in the way that we've got Torah Shebiksav, which is the first Torah, and Torah Shebal Peh, which is the second Torah. And it's like the Shnia, the Torah Shnia, the second chelik of the Torah. And everybody would know that that's Mishneh Torah, and therefore it would have to be called Mishneh, not Mishnah. So it doesn't matter which you say, Mishnah or Mishneh, they are both correct. Mishnah would from the Lashon of Shona or Shinantom, and Mishneh from the expression from Sheni, the second thing. So they chose this word Mishneh or Mishnah, and the plural becomes Mishnayos. That's the post-biblical plural, and that therefore is how it's come about. However, there was a reason why they chose this particular word. We've got all sorts of other possible words that they could have used, but they felt that this was the most appropriate word because Mishnah is osios neshama. As I mentioned at the beginning, it's a minhag, a custom, to learn Mishnayos le'ilu nishmas, a person who has passed away. The neshama is in the Mishnah, it goes together with the neshama. And it's actually quite remarkable that we say the same long Kaddish at the end of finishing a Seder of Mishnayos as we do at the Beis Olam when you bury a person. They are connected, intimately connected. The Mishnayos, if you finish, is a special Kaddish to say, the long Kaddish, which is said when you finish a Seder Mishnayos or a Maseches of Gemara, but the same Kaddish which is said at the Levaya. And therefore, you see the interconnection. But in fact, these four letters are interconnected in other ways as well. It is suggested that the Beis HaMikdash will be rebuilt in Cheshvan. The first Beis HaMikdash was in Tishri. The second Beis HaMikdash was rejuvenated at the time of Chanukah. And the third Beis HaMikdash, Le'osid Lava, will come in Cheshvan. Now, Cheshvan is the 8th month. Shmoina is the same osius as Mishnah and Neshama. And the suggestion, therefore, is if we learn Mishnayos properly, we can be Mekarev. The Mashiach will come in the 8th month, because the next time there will be a Beis HaMikdash, it will be built in Cheshvan. Now, and moreover, there is another combination of these letters, which is Menashe. What's the connection between Menashe, Shmoina, Neshama, and Mishnah? And it's very simple. If you look at the Degolim in Chumash, you'll know that the Degel Rishon was Yehuda, the Degel Sheni was Reuven. That's 3 in each Degel. That's 6. The third Degel was Degel Ephraim. Ephraim is the 7th. Menashe was the 8th. If you look through the Degolim, you'll find that Menashe was the 8th Degel. Menashe is Shmoina, is Neshama. So Menashe, he represents the fact that in his month, the 8th month will be the time when the Beis HaMikdash will be rebuilt. This is based on the Bnei Yisachar, and therefore we see the depth of this word Mishnah, that it includes all these ideas of Neshama, of the Beis HaMikdash, and therefore it's so important to learn Mishnah.